My name is Amber, and almost 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease called polymyositis. And I want to shed some light on this disorder for people because I know that when I was diagnosed, it wasn't very common, and I think it's become a lot more common, especially in the African American community. Most of the people that I've met with this disease are African American women around my age group. So between 23 and 40 is like the main age group that I've seen. It's just not talked about a lot, and a lot of people don't really understand it. So I've been through it. I've been going through it. I've actually healed myself from it once before, and due to some circumstances, it's come back, and I'm kind of beginning my journey over again. But I just wanted to make this video to just kind of inform people on this disease and kind of get the awareness out about it. So polymyositis is a disorder that affects your muscles. The word myositis has to do with muscle breakdown, and poly means many. So it actually translates to, multiple muscle breakdown. The actual Mayo Clinic definition is polymyositis is an uncommon inflammatory disease that causes muscle weakness affecting both sides of your body. Polymyositis can make it difficult to climb stairs, rise from a seated position, lift objects, or reach overhead. And it says as well, polymyositis is mostly common in adults in their 30s or 40s, and more common in blacks and more common in women. So that's their definition. My definition and my experience with it, I was 21 when this began. I was, doing what 21-year-olds do, going to work, partying, living life, having fun. And I thought that I was perfectly healthy. I mean, I'm not someone that gets sick a lot. I hardly ever get the cold. I hardly ever get a flu. Even now that my immune system is quote unquote compromised, I still don't ever get sick. So when this happened, this was like, such a shock to me. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I just started falling down a lot. It took me from the span of, I want to say April of that year to November to go from just falling and tripping all the time to getting to the point where I couldn't even stand up or get out of bed. I couldn't even stand without falling over. I would stand up and then just fall over. So it took that length of time for it to progress and get worse and worse. And I really ignored it. I was under a lot of stress at the time. It was a lot going on in my life. So I really wasn't noticing the fact that my health was deteriorating. And, I would get winded easier. Walking for long distances, I would get tired. My legs felt really, really heavy. Standing up from a seated position got really, really, really difficult. And especially the lower the seat was, I would have to have people help me get up, or it would take me a couple times, and then going up steps became more and more difficult. And I just kind of started to compensate over time for the things that I couldn't do anymore or that were getting difficult. I would just find ways to get around it, and I ignored it. And so halfway between that year, somewhere around June, I did go to a doctor near where I was living, and he told me that because I was so active, my muscles were fatigued, and he actually prescribed me a muscle relaxer, which probably made things worse. Basically, the rest of the year went on. I kept getting worse and worse, weaker and weaker, and eventually got to the point where I had lost a whole lot of weight. I had lost like 40 pounds. I wasn't eating. My appetite went away. I wasn't feverish or anything, but I was just really, really, really weak and just tired all the time. It makes you really, really tired. I ended up having to move back home with my mom because I just couldn't really do anything. And I kept falling all over the place. I would fall and I would hit my head on things, and it was just really, really dangerous. So after the last really bad fall, I fell in the bathtub, and I actually hit my head really, really hard on the porcelain. And I was just so depressed and just so weak that my mom literally forced me to go to the hospital, to go to the ER, because I still didn't want to go. And it wasn't until I went there and they ran every test in the world, literally every medical test in the world on me. It took about a week for a specialist to come in, and then they were able to, determine that this is what I have. So this is what they told me. And I'll never forget that day that, my mother and I were sitting in, this like conference room in the hospital, and all of these doctors and people are sitting there looking at us, and they told me that I, for one, should not be alive, because the level of muscle breakdown that I had is fatal. The level of this disease that I had was so high at this point that those particular doctors had never seen anyone survive it. So first they told me, we don't even know how you're alive right now. Then they tell me, you're definitely never going to walk again. They said, you're never going to be able to dress yourself, to take care of yourself on your own, to live by your own. They said that most likely you're going to have to live in a nursing home for the rest of your life. And, my mom, of course, was distraught. But when they told me this, it didn't even register. It didn't even register at all. It never has registered. I've never accepted that. My first reaction was to fight. What do I need to do to get better? I don't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to walk. I'm not going to do this. Like, those words didn't even register in my head. It was like, okay, I have a problem. Something has gone wrong. I need to figure out what I need. First, I need to learn what this is. Learn my body, learn how it works, and then figure out what I need to do to get better. So what it feels like is heavy, like just heaviness. It feels like somebody has turned up the gravity just on you. Like, if that makes any sense. It feels like somebody is like sitting on you. Like you don't even feel like you're weak or like there's anything wrong with you. You just feel like there's somebody sitting on you, keeping you in place, like holding you down, like keeping you still. And this particular thing, it affects your core muscles. So like my hip, my back, my hips, my shoulders are what is going to be weak. And, as a result, it makes it difficult to lift your, proximal muscles, lift your legs and lift your arms and whatnot. Or is that distal? I don't know. I'm a little bit weak on my physical therapy terms. That might be distal. But it makes it hard to lift those things. And then over time, it can progress out to, the other muscles. But at the time, it was just weakness. And, when I went into the hospital, I could still walk. I could still walk, I could still stand. It was just very slow, and I was very, very weak with it. But after I went into the hospital, and the very first thing they do is put you on an extremely high dose of steroids, prednisone, which are immunosuppressants. That's the only thing they know how to do with this disease, is suppress your immune system, because they believe that for some unknown reason, your body turns on itself and begins to attack healthy muscles, healthy tissues. I don't believe this at all, not even a little bit, but this is the working theory for that field of medicine. So they give you these immune suppressants to stop the breakdown of your muscles. And they put me on 100 milligrams of prednisone. In less than 5 days, I ballooned up so big. I gained over 50 pounds. I'm not lying to you. And at that point, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I couldn't lift my arm 2 inches off the bed. I could not do anything. I was an absolute prisoner in my body. I had became a vegetable at that point. I mean, I couldn't do anything but just lay there and blink, because I was so weak, and then I was huge on top of that, and it was filled with water. You fill up with the type of weight that you gain on steroids. It's like water, if in a way. So you could touch my leg and you would see the waves, like the ripples of water. That's how much I just filled up with fluid. And of course, I got worse. I got much worse then. You know, the side effects of, you know, these drugs that they give you on, there's a whole cocktail of things they give you, you know, some of them to suppress the side effects of the harder drugs, and then, you know, you're getting a low-grade form of chemotherapy called Rituxan. They give you all of these chemicals they're just dumping into your body, and I got so sick. I didn't even look like myself anymore. I looked like some kind of alien. I mean, the acne, my hormones were completely all over the place. Then I started having all these problems. And I've never been one to like, I've never been one for prescription medication. I wasn't really raised that way. I was raised with, you know, the whole like naturopathic route of things. I don't even really take Tylenol or anything like that. So this was just totally all new for me. And even then I was like, okay, well, I have to at least take something to kind of combat these side effects, because prednisone is no joke. Anybody who has ever been on prednisone, even a small amount, you know it is no joke. Them side effects are a bitch. And I mean, the weight gain I couldn't do anything about. The acne I couldn't do anything about. The hormone fluctuations were kind of what they were, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, because I was still taking other supplements on the side. You know, I had like a little bag that I would sneak underneath of my pillow in the hospital, and I would keep my supplements and herbs in it. So what I would do is stay up late at the hospital and be on the computer researching this disease, researching what it was, and finding anything I thought could help. I would order it and have my mom bring it to me. So I don't even remember half of the stuff I was taking, but it helped. Oh, colloidal silver. Colloidal silver was a huge help. I'll probably have to do a whole separate video on that, because colloidal silver is amazing, 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 amazing at offsetting the side effects of pharmaceuticals. So anyway, I did that route. I did that route for about 2-3 years. I actually lived in the hospital for a year, a little bit over a year. The first hospital I was in, I was there for 2 months, and then they moved me to a nursing home, and I was there for another month, and then they moved me to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I was there for 9 months. I lived. And then when I left there, I came back home, and I was in another nursing home for about a month, maybe 2 months before I came home. So that's a long time to live in and out of nursing homes and hospitals. I can't even begin to tell you all of the things that I've seen, all of the things that I've experienced. Some of it I've written about, some things I would never be able to tell anybody, because it's hell. It's literally hell. And that is a lot of the reason why I do not value, I have no respect for doctors. I'm sorry, I don't. I value experience. I value trial and error. I value you know, natural remedies, holistic remedies, because I mean, having an MD after your name does not impress me anymore. Wearing a lab coat does not impress me. I've seen it. I've seen it all. I know what they do. I know how these drugs work. I know how they affect people. I've seen it, not just on myself, but so many other people that I've met along this journey. It's poison. You know, I've met so many doctors that are retarded, make you wonder how they even got their license. So that doesn't impress me. And I want to explain how they measure this disease is through a protein in your blood called the CPK. I forget what it exactly stands for. It's like creatine protein nattokinase, something like that. But basically what it is, when your muscles break down, you know, that protein gets released into your system and gets passed out in your urine. So they can measure basically the rate that your muscles are breaking down based off of how much of this protein is in your blood or your urine. So this happens to everybody. You know, even a healthy person, your muscles are always breaking down to a degree. especially when you work out, you know, you're breaking down muscle. But a healthy range is anywhere between 50 to 200. When I went into the hospital at my weakest, my CPK level was at 28,000. That's why they said I shouldn't even be alive. Because once you get to that level, you start to have organ failure. You know, your heart is a muscle, so that can become affected. All of these other things begin to happen. So they actually diagnosed me with a even more rare version of this rare disease called CSRM. It's been so long since I've even thought about these terms, so excuse me if I'm wrong, but SRM myopathy, I think is what it was called. And basically, you know, nobody, that even the doctors in Johns Hopkins, those doctors told me they've never seen anybody survive this level of polymyositis. So I did that route, and I took their medicine for about 2-3 years, I think. About 2-3 years I did it. Going once a year to get this chemo called Rituxan. Actually, no, twice a year I did it. I was able to get off the steroids early after about a year. I was able to get off of prednisone, but I was still taking methotrexate, which is in many ways even more dangerous because it completely kills your liver. You can't have children the longer you're on it. It makes you barren. I'm young, you know, I mean, I still have hope to have children. I don't want to put that stuff in my body. So you know, I did it for a while, and then eventually I started to wean myself off of it. And I told my doctor I was doing this. Of course, they weren't for it, but my numbers stayed healthy. I continued to get healthier. They didn't know about the other things that I was taking on the side, of course, but, you know. So I was going to physical therapy every day. I was getting stronger. So then eventually, about 3 years in, I was off all medication. And I wasn't really going anywhere. I wasn't getting that much better. I was just kind of plateauing a little bit. I came across the Life Regenerator on YouTube, and you know, if you've never seen his channel, I will link it down below. He's absolutely amazing. And I watched like all of Dan's videos, and he really taught me a lot about raw foods and juicing and clean eating, basically, about healing yourself. And I learned even more about how, you know, I could keep the inflammation down in my body and help heal. And so I was able to do it. I did multiple juice fasts. I became a raw vegan for over a year. I was a regular vegan for about 2 years, and I just dived into it. Herbs, supplements, you name it. You know, I'm going to be making separate videos about some of the different things that have worked for me, the things that haven't worked for me over the years. But basically, I was able to heal myself with raw foods, and I was able to fully get out of my wheelchair and walk again. Okay, because I had to learn how to walk again. I had gotten completely weak. I was starting from scratch. So I was able to do it, you know, through the help of raw foods and changing my lifestyle, changing my way of thought. I was very depressed before. I had to do a lot of work on myself, and I was able to heal and, you know, be completely wheelchair free. And then something happened in the end of 2011. I was on a bus, and I was actually going to therapy, and I tripped. The driver had something on the floor in the way that shouldn't have been there, and I tripped on it, and I fell, and I completely shattered like every bone in my right foot, like every bone. Like, it was bad. And then as a result of that, I ended up getting like multiple blood clots in my lungs that traveled to my lungs, almost killed me again. Yeah. So that took a long time to heal, as you can imagine. It took a long time. And it just kind of like spiraled me back down again because I wasn't able to get up and move. I was bedbound again, and I got weaker. And I'm back living at home with my mom, and, you know, it just, things really, really spiraled back down. And before I knew it, I just gotten weak again. So now I'm back in my wheelchair, and I'm kind of depressed about it. I was actually going to school. I was actually enrolled back in college, and I was studying pre-med because I wanted to become a naturopathic doctor to help people not go through what I went through. So, you know, when my foot broke, but I had to go to school, so I'm in a wheelchair with a big, huge cast on my leg, and then I had to keep my leg elevated so it's like hoisted up on this chair, and I'm like trying to wheel through campus with all these books and stuff, and it was a mess. Like, I don't know how I did it, but it was a mess. I did it though. Okay, so that just kind of like spiraled things down. And over those, next few years, I just kind of fell into a depression, and my diet completely fell off, and I just got worse and worse and worse. And I got really, really weak again. I still wasn't taking medication. And even though my doctor, he kept trying to get me to go back on steroids, but I was just like, no. Like, I was actually at the point where I was like, I would rather die than go back on the steroids, because it was hell. There was no way I was going back to all of those things I had experienced before. And I knew that I did it once before and I could do it again, through food. Last time I went to see my doctor, he was trying to convince me once again to go back on the drugs, and I was like, no thank you. And he got mad with me, and my thing was always, okay, I know that's your job and you're supposed to recommend what you think is best for me, but once you've offered it to me and I say I don't want it, that's it. It's not on you anymore. It's on me. It's my decision to make ultimately, and if anything happens as a result of that, it is my responsibility, not yours. So I don't understand why these doctors get an attitude when you refuse the drugs. And so he looks at me and says, I'll never forget this. He looks at me and says, what makes you think you're special? And with a straight face. And I was so shocked that he said this to me, because, he had been my doctor for this whole time. He was the one who originally diagnosed me. He was there championing me as I was getting better the whole time. Like, we had become close. And I just was like, wow. But, when he said it, what I actually heard in that moment was him confirming that I'm special. What I heard was him saying, you are special, and this is how you know. This is how you know you do not belong here. It just came to me. Like, in that moment, I got it. Okay, this is not a place of healing. I'm not going to be healed here with him this way. I don't belong here. And, he had an intern with him, who was like shadowing him or whatever. And so she's standing off in the corner. And when he said that, she was just kind of looking like, oh, snap, son. Like, oh my God. Like, like she thought that I was about to like blow up and cuss him out and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But I didn't get mad. I didn't even say anything to him. But that was the last time I saw him. And, that was like 2-3 years ago. I think 2-3 years ago. And, I kind of was like all over the place. I got better again. I did clean up my diet, but then I got too far down this road of fasting. And you can go back and look at my fasting video. This is something that happened about 2 years ago. I did an extensive fast, and it was too much. It was too much. And, that kind of... It was bad because it almost killed me again, but it was good because it got me out of the environment that I was in. Where I was living before was just not conducive to health. And it was really, 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 really making me depressed. And that was the main factor of me not being able to get back up on my feet. So going through that experience, I don't regret it at all, because it got me out of that environment. And I now live on my own. I have my own place, and I am at peace. I'm happy again. So I'm ready. I'm still in a wheelchair. I have a standing frame behind me right there that I get up in every day, and I exercise. I'm ready. I'm at the place where I'm ready to fully dive back in and do exactly what I know that I need to do, that is going to help me get back out of this chair, because I know that it can be done. I've done it before. I know that I have it in me. The fact that I've been living all this time without drugs, it's been it's been over 5 years since I've been on any medication, and I am fine. I am healthy. The only problem I have is weakness. That's it. And it may sound like a lot to some people, like, oh, you're still in a wheelchair, but I don't have half the problems as most of the people who have this disease and who take pharmaceuticals. And I know because I have many of the friends, you know, people that I've met along the way, and we keep in touch, and they have all kinds of kidney failure and all of these other issues that they've been going through, and I don't have any of those problems. Right now, my only problem is that my muscles are weak and I cannot stand on my own for long. That's it. And if that's my only problem, as opposed to being on drugs and maybe being able to walk a little bit more, but having a whole bunch of other complications, it's not worth it to me. So I'm beginning my journey again, and I'm going to be sharing, you know, like I said, I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks along the way, and kind of like showing you guys how I do this, because I know it can be done. You know, I'm only 30, I'm still young. And I know that what they've told me is not true. I know that my body can heal itself. I know that my body is not attacking itself. I still have an amazing immune system. I always say that. It's kind of like a joke between my friends and I, because it's like I have this autoimmune disease, but I never get sick. I'm like the healthiest person out of anyone I know. Everybody else catches a cold, anything going around like that. And, you know, I'm always fine. I can't catch anything even if I wanted to. So, you know, if you guys have any questions, you know, or anything in particular you want me to touch on more, you know, just let me know. I will tell you though, out of all of the experimenting and research I've done over the years, the fruitarian diet is the one that I recommend the most. I am not completely raw anymore. I have no desire to be completely raw or vegan. I still eat eggs, and I do still eat, I do kefir. So I do still have some dairy and meat products in my diet, but I do believe that the best diet, especially for this disease, is 80 to 90% fruit-based. So that, you know, that would be like my quick recommendation. But I have a lot of experience with herbs, with, you know, any diet, every diet out there. I've tried it, every supplement, every herb, every, you know, meditation, you name it, I've done it. So, you know, I'm going to be doing more videos on that to share, you know, that side of it. But I just wanted to really just kind of talk about this, because it's really, it can be done. And I really want people to know that you do not have to take everything these doctors tell you at face value. Don't believe. They love to give out death sentences. Don't believe it. Don't let them put that on you. Don't let them tell you what your body can or can't do, because they're guessing. It's called a practice for a reason. They are literally practicing on you, you know. So if you are somebody who is very, very strict about that, or you care about, you know, all of this kind of stuff, then you're on the wrong channel, because I am not somebody who, you know, sticks to that. I go with my heart, I go with my body, and I go with experience, what works. So yeah, thank you for listening to my story. Subscribe if you would like to come on this journey with me.